Actor Jesse Smollett's story. Wow. Talk about this a while. About being attacked by two Trump supporters has completely fallen apart. The actor is ducking investigations. He won't talk to police anymore. He's hired PR people. He's got a team of lawyers. He's been now, actually the last story, they're actually removing him from Empire, any of the segments that he did on Empire, which I'm sorry to say I never watched. I don't know what the...
I've heard it's a good show. I've never seen it.
I didn't follow it. I
yeah.
heard it's a decent show. So anyway, here's where this case really gets so crazy, okay? So Smollett has an album that's getting ready to come out. He wants to sell his album, so what he does is he runs the risk of starting a major race riot in Chicago. That's where this took place. Now, we know that he bought the rope that supposedly was, they put around his neck. We know he hired the two fellows that were that supposedly attacked him. They had actually worked for him. They had been on set in a couple of the Empire segments.
Yeah, I think one of them was his personal trainer.
Yeah, one of them was his trainer. So he appears on Good Morning America. Now, Robin, just you want to say, what is up with these softball questions? The reason is that corporate media wanted to believe it. You see, look, we do so many stories about Trump. There is no love lost about Trump here. But I hopefully at the end of the day, when they follow our stories, they know we're calling balls and strikes.
Right.
We don't create a story because we don't like Trump. Obviously, we don't like that whole scene. But media and what I call California celebrity cool jumped in on this because they dislike Trump so much. How dangerous is that for the future of journalism? I mean, that's really what this is about. You had journalists that blew it, supposedly good. I have a list of them. It's startling. These journalists that absolutely blew it, supposedly good journalists. What do you think?
Honestly, we're lucky that this took place when it was, well below zero in the middle of a massive winter storm in Chicago. Because if it had been, fairly better weather, what you're talking about is correct. We would have seen riots out there on the street because this did hit the news cycle like a ton of bricks. And everybody thought, oh my God, this is horrible. They're doing
MAGA, Trump.
They're doing this because of this African-American man. But it turns out that nothing about his story is true. And when I first saw this story, I go through every morning and pretty much all day, I'm looking for stories, things to do and things to talk about. I saw this.
Reaction I did of that.
Something didn't feel right.
Yeah.
I didn't talk about this story. And usually this would have been the kind of thing, well, this seems important. Let me talk about it. But it didn't feel right to me. And so I didn't. And I'm glad I didn't.
Fair. It didn't feel right to any journalist with a brain. Any journalist that was not an ideologue, that was willing to give up their journalistic qualities so they could attack Trump. Everybody knows what we think about Trump. All they got to do is go to our site, read our stuff, watch our videos. We know what MAGA is all about. But to create these lies and then have these idiots, Don Lemon, did you follow CNN journalist? Did you follow his statements was concerned about the actor's well-being. And that this was brought on by MAGA, M-A-G-A. This is brought on by hate that came out of Trump. PBS, we have to do better than this country. This is disgusting. Our country's falling apart with hate, driven, suggesting by Trump. Joyce Vance, MSNBC, my God, you would have thought this was you couldn't turn MSNBC on without hearing Smollett. Joyce Vance, I doubt Trump will do any tweeting about this. It's his fault, basically, is what they're saying. It just goes on. CNN, MSNBC, Washington Post. These are supposed to be trained journalists. And in America right now, a journalist, and some of it we can blame on Trump because he keeps beating on them, but they give him such material to beat on him with. How does this play in Middle America? You know what? They remember Tawana Brawley. You remember that? The Al Sharpton story where Al Sharpton does this Tawana Brawley for a year. back in his what I call his big days, when he's got the big hair and he's big days. He's out front. He runs for president on the Twana Bali kind of just talking point. Now he's back at MSNBC. But how do you forget Twana Bali, where they made up this story, and she was supposedly found in a dumpster in garbage bags with slander written all over and feces on her body. This story, nobody took the time to actually ask the tough questions. They jumped to conclusions.
Well, we have so many problems with race. We do have a hate problem here in the United States that's existed, for hundreds of years, and it's getting worse.
We're not hateful people. The American public is not a hateful public. I just don't see that.
Right. It's always been fringe. But here's the thing: you don't need to go out there and make up a story, to actually, if you want to bring attention to a actual problem. No. We have enough problems in this country that you could address, you could talk about. You want to promote an album? Don't go out there and try to pretend you were a victim to get some headlines. Why don't you go out and start volunteering and get some headlines that way? And people say, you know what, this is a good guy.
Right.
He's doing good things.
Right.
Instead
of a fraud.
Instead, you killed your career. You killed your career there.
He's killed his career. With a little luck, he'll go to prison.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
That's what he should be in prison. Here's why I'm so down on this. I mean, this makes me so angry. He actually had it planned to where there was a camera that was supposed to be filming everything that happened. He staged it in front of the camera. Well, fortunately for Chicago, the camera was pointed in another direction. He didn't know the difference between east and north. And so it was pointed north, and he couldn't tell the difference between east and north. So he staged it on the wrong side of the camera. Had he not, can you imagine what would have occurred in Chicago that was already brewing? And as you say, fortunately, it was cold up there.
Yeah, sub-freezing temperatures, which also begged the question from the beginning: why was he just wandering the street in these sub-freezing temperatures? Nobody was out there. Nobody was doing. Why were two guys walking the street with rope and bleach?
But isn't that a question you ask on Good Morning America?
That should have been the first question they asked.
Don't you fire the producer who doesn't have the brain to ask questions? Don't you say, sorry, Charlie, you're out of here? If I had a producer that looked at a story and said, Pap, I want you to go do this on America's Lawyer. I want to, here's a great story. If they did that to me, they'd be gone the next day. Just not analyzing. But the other part of this story that I think is so important is what I call the California Hollywood cool factor. Okay? Immediately, you got Hollywood this and saying this. They've become so irrelevant in the eyes of the American public that right now, and I hate to see that, because the movie industry can change culture in a positive way. But right now, you've got Hollywood is I wouldn't surprise me if Hollywood is out of business in 5 years with streaming, Netflix, Prime, Amazon, all of these variations, because the American public doesn't want anything to do with Hollywood anymore, the same reason they're angry with journalists. Are you seeing that, or is that I'm reading the statistics. I'm looking at statistics where movie sales right now are so far down. It's because I really do believe that you have this Hollywood cool connection that people are tired of. They don't go act. You're a great actor. You're a great actress. Act. You have a right to say something, but don't stir something up where you don't know the rest of the story.
Right. I mean, look, this was a horrible thing that this guy did. And, if he doesn't go to prison, he at least needs to be under psychiatric observation, because there's something wrong with him.
Yeah.
As for the whole Hollywood thing, that's not even really something that I pay attention to. I'm not typically don't watch a ton of movies or anything like that.
Well,
so
you don't
I'm
go
not
to
sure.
the movies. I don't go to the movies either.
Right.
But if you look at the numbers, the statistics on Hollywood.
Because there's no original ideas.
Let me just tell you something. If you don't watch Marvel Comics right now, if you aren't a Marvel comic fan, forget going to the movies.
Right.
Because they don't even create a movie unless it's around Marvel Comics. There's a reason that this is happening. And you have these people that can't get it through their head. It is your First Amendment right to make a statement, but make it responsibly. you know, because Middle America, they're falling into all this. The Middle America, we live in Middle America. I mean, we're right here. We're in Pensacola, Florida. I mean, we know what Middle America's thinking. All you got to do is ask 10 people, and they will spout out in some version or another exactly what I'm saying.
Well, you know what? There is a responsible way to do it, though. When you think of somebody like Leo DiCaprio, with his environmental activism.
Exactly.
He's not out there at these award shows making these grand statements, F Trump. No, he's actually out there. He's doing something. He's making it worthwhile instead of trying to grab headlines.
He is brilliant.
And that's how you do it.
DiCaprio is brilliant in the fact it's a message of hope. You see, it's not a message of hate. It's a message of hope. And DiCaprio on climate change has had such a fabulous impact in that regard. I don't know what it's going to take to get this in people's head.